https://discord.gg/flat-earth. Welcome to 24/7 Flat Earth Discord channel. Be sure to go to VC Check and 1 to get your VC verification tags to get involved in the conversation about our Earth. Be sure to bring your verifiable Earth curvature evidence, though.
Enemy spotted.
Pinky Bandinski on the 24/7 Flat Earth Politics channel.
NASA is presenting them as something that's not photoshopped. The other one that you presented with like a cartoon face, I don't know where you got that from, but if NASA was saying that that's a cartoon, then that's fair. But the thing is that there's we have images of Earth from space since like 1946. Even before Photoshop. Of course, there's other things you can. I'm saying supposedly. That's. Basically,
supposedly you do. So prove it. Look, you don't understand.
Anyway, let me just finish what I'm saying.
Like, require proof.
So the reason why we're even talking about
we've heard you guys do this monologue over and over again all morning. Those pictures are not proof. Those pictures themselves require proof. If the ground can't be demonstrated to be curving as purported with those pictures, then those pictures are forgeries, and that's all there is to it.
Do you not think that
going back to this?
Do you not think that, like, if you're in a court of law and someone showed you a video of a murder, that you might accept it as proof?
Wait. I'm still. Can I just finish?
Just you're doubting it. Just you're doubting it doesn't mean it's untrue.
Each time they're going to
but it's a fantastical image, though, right? I mean, if I came out with a picture of a unicorn that you have no point of reference for, you've never seen a unicorn, you're going to doubt that. You're going to be like, okay, there's no way you can supply me with a picture of a unicorn unless it was some way forged, right? You didn't go out and take a photograph of it because those don't exist, right? Unless you want me to go disproving unicorns. But
what makes it fantastic?
So the globe in this case would be the unicorn, right? So if there's no verifiable evidence from the surface of the Earth that it is that thing that they're showing in those pictures, then it's just a picture of a unicorn.
There is a lot of weight behind what you're saying, right? For instance, yes, it is true. A photo on itself, without any reference point or any context, it would obviously could be fake and could be true. Like, it just depends on if you have a good sense of pattern recognition. But when it comes to things like, well, you're not just saying that photos could be true or false. What you're saying is that there's a reason why these photos are false, right? And we can't believe them, right? That's different.
Right. If
there's extra
the
work
ground
there,
isn't
right?
curving, right, the way that it's alleged to be, given those pictures, right, then those pictures are forgeries. Well,
there's circumstantial evidence, which was someone was talking about earlier on, that you could use and refer to the proof of the image, right? But let's say. Oh, sorry. I said you could use other proofs like circumstantial to support it, right? Which don't actually have to be drop over distance.
You can't.
The point is that photographs and videos are satisfactory.
Distance that those pictures are trying to show you doesn't actually exist in reality, then those pictures aren't reality.
Well, yeah, actually,
do you think any photo could be satisfactory as evidence? Do you think it could be in any sort of way?
Yeah, if you could demonstrate the surface to be curving that way, then I would go, I don't really have a reason to doubt those pictures. Seems like that's what the Earth is. Sure, why not? But if we go to a beach, we test a lake or an ocean, it never seems to be dropping the way that they're showing in those pictures, then those pictures are not reality. They're not the beach. They're not the ocean that you look at. It's simple,
If your mum, right, was killed, right, for instance, and someone showed you a picture of the man killing her mid-murder, right? But then you have another picture of someone, let's say, Bill Clinton superimposed into the image with NASA written on him, right? Which one would you believe?
Here, I got a good example for you. So this guy I was watching.
To address my point, but go ahead, I guess, Crit.
Yeah, so this is a really good example. I was doing traffic court one time out for a continuing education class, and this guy went to traffic. It was interesting because part of the thesis I was doing is how traffic court does not have an affirmative defense to it. So the guy went to court and he said, they got your car, a vehicle you own, which he was using for the work too. It was spotted running a traffic light. He said, so the government accused him of a crime. And since he can't give affirmative defense, he'd have to say it wasn't his vehicle or it wasn't him. It was somebody else. So he says, certainly, Toby, he shows to the judge, that vehicle is used by these number of people. It's a work car. It's registered to my landscaping company. Here's a photo of me in the Bahamas. I had just gotten married, and here's with my beautiful wife. Here's our marriage certificate. Here's all this evidence, one thing after another. Not only was I not in that vehicle at the timestamp recorded by you, I was in a completely different country.
Yeah, but
the judge said, "Too bad. You own the vehicle. You're responsible for the ticket." This is a burden of proof the government will use against you. So why not reverse it? Why not hold the government to account for the same burden of proof when they present something?
Well, that's not really engaging with any. Like, I mean, I respect that is a very valid point and very useful point in a different conversation. Like, that's obviously fine. I'm not exactly pro government, but I do think that's a good point. I do need to say though, I am going to be right back. So if you want to respond to Pinky while I'm gone, because he's also on my side.
I want to respond to the analogy real quick. You're saying someone comes in with a video evidence of your mom murdered, for instance, but the problem is our mom is still alive and we bring her to court.
Yeah, I think he's gone now, but
we measured the ground. The mom is alive or flat. It's not dead or curved.
Yeah, I think what the point maybe he's bringing up is
you just said that his mom is flat.
Evidence for evidence, right? Like, so it's not just like, oh, and all photos are equal because they could be photoshopped. You know, like for instance, I've never seen a bear in real life, but there's tons of images of bears online. So the probability that all these people are lying and all the history of bears and all the stuff I've read is made up. It's very, very unlikely. Now, also you can when it comes to like satellite space images,
please.
I'm sorry.
One thing at a time.
The difference is you can go and see a bear. You can go to a zoo.
I
haven't. To a country that has bears, and you can go see a bear. That's
and in this,
you can
I know.
verify for yourself. So it's not something you have to take on a lot of faith. It's something.
But in the same way, though, I can also go to space if I buy a ticket on. I can if I have enough money. I can certainly do that.
Jeff Bezos doesn't have enough money. Do you have more money than Jeff Bezos?
Well,
I'm pretty sure from the the Kármán line, which is where his spaceship goes up to, you can see the.
We talked about this the other day. Suborbital isn't even high enough.
Think about it in this way.
Isn't high enough.
Can I just try and elucidate why the examples are very different, right? So, let's just say that I wanted to become a rapper tomorrow, right? Would you say, Pinky, that it was possible for me to download a digital audio workstation and then record a rap song? Would you say that that's possible?
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like the easeability of disproving it by just going to see a bear is connected to that. I understand.
But then would you also say that it's possible for me to support Drake on tour as a rapper?
Yeah, it's possible.
That's also possible, right? But they're not equally possible. So that's
I know. There's a difference in the probability of being connected to just being able to see things empirically yourself. Although it is still the case that like for instance, Dude Perfect released a video of them going up into space with a curved Earth. Maybe you think that that Jeff Bezos satellite is
according to the math, that's not high enough to see the curve.
Okay. Oh, by the way, you didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you. Do you know how high up above the Earth he was?
No.
So if you take a
63 miles.
Well, okay. So take a schoolroom globe, and that's how high above it is he? So he's about 2 millimeters above the surface of a schoolroom globe. So nobody has seen the curvature of the Earth from that height. I just want to make that clear.
So according to the math, that's not possible. It would have had to been a lensing effect.
Okay. Well, that's fair. Anyway, if I could move on to my second piece of really quickly, the empirical evidence of the photos being true. It's that you can actually take pictures of say the ISS, for example, with a telescope that you can buy yourself. You only need like a 16-inch telescope and you can see it pretty clearly. Not only that, you can calculate the distance to all these satellites by using parallax and Doppler radio stuff. You can also prove that the satellites are indeed, those things in the sky that appear to be satellites are indeed taking pictures of the Earth, because you can use Google Earth historical imagery. And say if you go outside into a yard or something and you write a message for Google, like, hello, or just something on the ground, you can see that most Google image areas update the place a couple times a month. So you could go into the Australian outback, for instance, write some big thing in the sand, and then if how are we getting these images on Google Earth? How can you like write something on the sand and then see it on Google Earth if there are no satellites up there? You know what I mean? That doesn't mean that they're maybe they still could be lying about the shape of the Earth, but at least the satellites are up there. That's at least some proof of that, I think.
No one's denying things in the sky that can take images of the Earth. The thing that's in contention is the vacuum of space, my friend.
Well, I think now the thing that's in contention is the shape of the Earth, and that's the point I just made. I was saying like the Earth could still be flat, and maybe they're taking pictures, but maybe they're just lying about the shape thing, possibly.
No one's denying that things are in the sky taking images of the Earth. The thing that's in contention is the actual area that they're in the vacuum of space. I know you just said the thing that's in contention is the shape of the Earth, but you're pointing out things that are said to be in the vacuum of space. We've had this conversation, mate. Come on.
Oh, well, so most people say that there's like, a firmament at a certain height. You can show that satellites must be, higher than that if you look at distances. But even if you are talking about the vacuum of space, the fact that satellites move at a certain speed and that follows the speed of orbital mechanics and there's no drag is evidence that there's a vacuum up there, for instance. But yeah, I think mostly we're not really talking about the vacuum at this moment. I know that's something flat earthers believe, but we were just having a conversation about, whether it's flat or not. Because of course you could have a vacuum with a flat Earth, you could have a no vacuum with a round Earth. Like it's kind of independent.
No one's denying.
So
can take images of the Earth, though.
No, but the fact that that you can take images of the Earth, and even in places where there's no weather balloons or like high altitude flights, like over the middle of Australia, you can like I said, write something and see that it gets updated. And that is evidence that at least, they're not lying in this grand conspiracy that they've actually been that high to take images. And there's little things, those little dots you see moving, like the Elon Musk Star train. The train of what are they called? Like Starlink satellites. You can see those. All that stuff.
Okay, let's follow the
logic. You can
logic.
see stuff in the sky. We don't know the exact mechanics of how all that stuff works. We get told how it's supposed to work, and we see them putting a bunch of stuff on balloons and stuff up there.
Hey, Pinky, let's follow the logic, right? So is there a map of flat Earth? Do you understand is there a map or no map?
I don't think there's a map that works with the observations we see. Maybe there's a model. Some of you guys have.
Okay, let's follow that, right? I'm not challenging you. I just want to know what you thought. So now let's look at the contradictory worldview you have here, because here you've got, Robert Simmons, NASA, visual arts guy, says he used photos of Earth to make a flat map. So which one is incorrect here? Did he have photos, or he doesn't have a map? So
a flat map?
Yeah, a flat map.
Well, I mean, like, what happens when you compress a sphere into a flat map.
Yeah,
right?
so he took photos from space. So what NASA did with photos from space, he said, we wrapped the flat map around the ball to give the appearance of what Earth might look like from space.
But what happens when people try to wrap a flat map around a sphere, right?
Yeah, he had to use Photoshop. That's the second part.
You get distortions, right?
So he could have just presented the flat map, just right there. He goes, we got all these photos. We laid all these photos across the ground. We have a flat map. And your worldview says he doesn't. He doesn't have a flat map.
No, I think so. Maybe I think you're misunderstanding. So my first point is I'm not trying to say that if you zoom in at a super close level, all those images knitted together can't make a flat map. I'm just saying the fact that like these lights in the sky and
you're talking about stitching. You're talking about stitching, right?
Yeah. So for instance, Google Maps, if you zoom out enough, it all looks kind of flat. The thing is, if you stitch a bunch of stuff together, well, actually, first of all, you can actually. The thing is, if there's no distortion, then the things won't work. It's like in terms of the map projection, either the angles will be off, or the areas will be off, or the distances will be off. And if, say, it does work, which I don't think it could, I think there could be some stuff going on with software. If it's like a whole bunch of things stitched together and just made to sort of work by the artifacts of the resolution. But yeah, Crit, if you could send me that guy Robert Simmons with his map, and that is a proof. It would,
yeah, I posted in the text chat.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, and there's also, I mean, you can find it too. He did an interview on National Public Radio. It was really quite inspiring because the lady who was interviewing him said, "Hey, some people have said that the blue marble's photoshopped." He's like, "No, it's not.
Photoshopping and
Photoshopped.
stitching are two different things, right?
Yeah, and it was not altered. Let me correction. People said, "Hey, Robert Simmons, this blue marble 2.0 is an altered image." He's like, "No, it's not altered. That's pretty much what you would see if you viewed Earth from space." And
Pretty
people
much
like,
what you'd see is like saying that it's
Yeah,
stitched so well that,
He
that it
lied.
looks. But well, saying pretty
he
much,
lied
right?
to you.
It might be high. Yeah, well, you know, I think he's probably trying to pick up his own project. But the idea of saying it's pretty much what you'd see is saying,
Yeah,
for
in his
instance,
mind,
saying for instance
imagination.
that it's so well stitched together that if you did go out and compare it against actual images, it looks good enough, right? It looks good enough.
Yeah,
right?
but it's not an actual photo. It's what he
You
thinks
know,
in
and
his
he
mind.
said that, and he admitted that, right? So it's
Yeah, he
clearly,
goes, "I'm not an astronaut." In the view, he goes in the interview, he goes, "I'm not an astronaut. The best I can do is use my imagination and then use Photoshop and take these flat maps and kind of wrap them around a 3D sphere."
yeah.
He said,
But you see what's
in
happening
the same
here, right?
interview, he said, "I could have done the same thing for any shape. I
Yeah.
could have put it on a triangle. I could have put it on a cube. I could have put it on any shape you wanted.
Yes, but
I just picked a sphere for shits and giggles."
well, no, that's not why he picked it, right? I don't think he's ever said that. But the issue is here that you're using.
He
You're
didn't
actually.
pick it.
You're.
He didn't
it's-
pick it. He was assigned it.
Yeah, it's signed
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Hold
Assigned
on,
to it.
hold on. I want to ask a question. So was it in that same interview where he said, "Yes, I'm not an astronaut, so I've never seen the Earth, so I'm making this Earth as the Earth I perceive it to be and what I think people expect"? Was that in that same interview?
Yeah, it was the expectation of what he thought that the Earth would look like.
Okay, yeah.
Can you show me this interview, please? Because I think when you say that, I think I know what you take from it, but I take something else completely different. The issue here is that, and I find it kind of funny that we're using NASA's honesty against them to prove that they're liars.
No, it's you. It's your worldview, not mine. I think they're always lying.
So
I
is
follow
Simmons lying?
the George Carlin view that I don't trust. This is why a little bit of atheist logic. If I could sprinkle just a little bit of atheist logic into your worldview and just say you don't know for sure what they're talking about, and let's investigate what they're saying. I would say every single thing that NASA puts out has layers and layers of propaganda behind it.
Well, do you think this does?
Just like all branches of government.
Do you think the
The
Simmons
executive
thing
branch,
does?
the executive branch is no different.
Yeah, but
than
do you
the
think this?
legislative.
Do you think the
the-
Simmons things does? Right? Do you think this does? Right? What you're referencing is proof of lies or proof of, I guess, stitching.
No, what I would say, which one is it? Does he have a flat map or he doesn't have a flat map? I would say he doesn't have a flat map, and you would also say he doesn't have a flat map.
Well,
We
no,
agree.
I don't. I think flat map, I think, is being used, I guess, loosely here because I don't know exactly what flat map means, right? If you're talking about stitching, you take sections of the Earth and put them together, right? That's true.
So we both agree NASA's lying. They do not
Well-
have a map. They lied about that.
Well, flat map, again, depends on what you mean by flat map, right? The second thing is, and I said this earlier.
Flat map. It's 2 words. How about flat Earth? Is that hard to explain?
Well, flat map might mean just like that it appears flat based on the stitching, right? So you can take a picture of Australia, right? Or like a very zoomed in picture of Australia, stitch it all together to make Australia, right? For instance, it might look relatively
if
flat
it
when
was
you
from a
have it all
globe, you'd
separate.
end up with a globe. You wouldn't end up with a flat map.
You'd have a globe map.
I don't know
This
what
is
you mean.
why they think what happened to
Wait, Craig, I wanted to ask you a question because I think I know you have a lot of let's say lack of trust in the American government and NASA, but like why would you mistrust the Met Office, for instance? Do you know much about the Met Office?
Holy fuck.
Yeah, but like it's just like, you didn't know anything about the organization, but yeah, I guess you just extend your skepticism of NASA to the Met Office, don't you?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
The Met
So-
Office is the British Meteorological Organization, right? So you
That
have
must
NASA,
be
we have
true,
Met
then.
Office, right? But you're extending your skepticism of NASA.
I would
to
say
the Met
I've got
Office, right?
99 problems, and being a subject of a queen isn't one of them.
Okay, but that's not a count. That's the point I'm saying is that your
For a
skepticism.
king now. A
the
king,
point-
I guess. Yeah,
yes,
the queen.
yes. God save
The
the king.
queen is dead. Long live the king.
Yeah, but
So all the problems you have in England, we said no, thank you, not into you, bro. You know, like not going to happen. Okay, 1776, we said King George,
Hello?
you guys committed multiple heinous
Yes,
crimes
but
against
the point
American
is that
people.
when you have
I do not trust that you have our best interest in mind.
Okay, well, something that happened 300 years ago can't exactly be your axiom for what
Yeah,
you think about British people.
it still stands to this day.
All right, okay, well that's fine, right? But the idea is that you have skepticism of the of NASA. That's fine. Maybe NASA are cunts, right? Who knows, right? But then you have to extend you're extending it about organizations you know little about. I assume you know a lot about NASA, perhaps, right? But you're extending it to the Met Office, the ESA, and the Chinese Space Agency, and
The Met
any other
Office
country
doesn't make
that you
water
probably don't know
curd.
anything about, right? It's
Well,
very.
let's
It's
go-
not
let's
saying
go
that it's
one by
true.
one.
It's just saying that your
No,
skepticism
hold
is
on.
less.
I mean,
Let's go one.
aligned, right?
Brit is British, so for his credit, maybe he doesn't know what no means.
Yeah, let's go one by
hey,
one. How about
well.
the Chinese Space Agency? So the Chinese Space Agency is part of its military. This is why I think it's also important for people to look up how each space agency is organized in which country. So in China, it's a space force, if you will, for lack of a better term. It's always been part of its military. So I can look at that and do I trust the Chinese military or do I distrust the Chinese military?
But do you think China trusts its military?
Yeah, I think the Chinese people are
No, it's in the government.
supremely suppressed by their government.
Do you think the military
how about
trusts
the
the
guy
space,
who's
the space
guy
agency?
who's in charge of the supreme leader of China? I can't remember what title he actually uses off the top of my head. It's like chancellor or something like that. He says that images of Winnie the Pooh is dissidence against the Chinese government. Okay, so I would say this, right? Let's just say hypothetically the Chinese government develops a space program and they go into space and they come across an alien race that looks like Winnie the Pooh. Do they right, rethink their worldview about images of Winnie the Pooh being dissidents? Or do they bomb them into
I have a train of thought for you, Crit, right? You would agree states want to preserve themselves as best they can, right? Security is important, right?
With
you agree
lies,
with that?
intimidation, or with truth?
Or lies, intimidation, that's true, right? But you agree that the military is supposed to be the state's method or tool, main tool, hard tool for protecting itself abroad and within, right? But you also agree that perhaps that the agency, the space agency or the Met Office, supports the military's ability to protect the state from its people and other people, right? So in a way, there has to be trust between the space agencies because if people say the future of conflict is in space, right? Well, not in the sense of like Star Wars, but in the sense of like using it on Earth, right? Those two organizations, those two institutions, the military and space agencies, need to be aligned and trust each other. So the space agency can't lie to the military.
You're
very,
imagining
very
too
well,
much,
right?
You're imagining too much. A lot of these people are just operating on belief. Like, how many rockets is this Met Office sending out beyond low Earth orbit?
I don't think the Met Office. I mean, they don't think it's not a space agency. We're the British space agency.
So it's irrelevant.
The meteorological organization.
It's just people who believe in the story and are furthering the narrative with their beliefs.
Well, they have satellites and stuff like that. It's not a space agency per se. It's a meteorological organization.
Yo, Brit. So, I mean, I'm a globie, obviously, but like, yeah, it's definitely possible that these agencies could lie to their government body or even the military. Like, that happens all the time.
But then it's against the state. Then there's a big problem here because if the military and the state are being lied to by the space agencies, then this whole idea that it's in support of the state being able to oppress us or whatever, or like other organizations being able to oppress us with the military, and there's that disconnect where even the military can't really trust the space agencies. Then there's almost like a paradox going on here, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
you're
the
not
paradox
thinking about
is
the
that
separation of the departments and the compartmentalization. It's not like there's a bunch of them hanging out in a room. Like, I'm from the Met Office, I'm from NASA. We know what's going on in all these places. That's not how it works at all.
Well, they
It's
are
compartmentalized.
well, yes, every state has departments, but they are all arms of the state, right? They aren't just separate.
Yeah, but the
completely independent.
individuals in it aren't privy to what's going on across the whole organization or at the top of the organization.
Yeah, that is
And
yeah, sure, I agree with that.
And I mean, I don't know, the link between NASA and the Met Office, I don't really see it. I mean, yeah, they're all arms of the state, and the state is doing what it's doing. The space agency's claiming to go into space is like a total isolated thing. Like, no one in another government department is going to be privy to space because they're part of a government that has a space program. It's like
Yeah,
a
but
tiny amount of people, even on paper.
So the connection, I guess, for just to be clear, the Met Office and NASA, obviously the British Space Agency would be more appropriate. But I think the Met Office serves the purpose of saying, you know, they're also engaged in space operations and so on, right?
Yeah,
so
but they'll just be getting their information from the so-called space agencies.
I think they also involve themselves in putting satellites into space.
Well, they also have ICBMs and stuff. And to be honest, like it's in all space. I mean, it's in all military interests across all militaries to have the shape of the battlefield pretty well known, because distances, like I said, on a map projected flat Earth would be completely different from other stuff. So yeah, having their it's like there's a lot of incentive to
there's
get
a lot of incentive to get people to get normal people to not understand the shape of the Earth, so that they cannot operate on the same level as the military.
If one,
but there's also incentive to cheat. Like, for instance, if like, you know, militaries agree, okay, some people at the top are going to know that the true shape of the Earth, but most people in the military, like privates and stuff, they're not going to know. Well, a military that actually has a true understanding of the shape of the Earth would have a massive advantage, right? And so
I can give you an example of this. The Nazis during World War II, they used the Nicobine targeting system to bomb Britain. And the British generals said, well, they can't bomb us. The targeting system is too far away. The curve of the Earth will get in the way. There's no way. But they did, because the targeting system still works.
Yeah, targeting system works.
Explain to him how it works.
I'm not that great at that. You can do that, I.
If I remember correctly, it's essentially they have two transmitters, right, that transmit, like, as best, you know, the way that it's described, a linear transmission, right? And they cross at a point in space, right? And so the planes can follow the signal trail until they peak where they cross. And when they get to that peak of crossing, they then know they're over the target and they can release their bombs. Okay. And like you said, rightly so, these aimings of these signals were said by the British, supposedly, that there's no way this can work because the curve of the Earth is in the way. But
I don't know too much about this situation, so I can't comment.
The meeting point of the beams would basically be so high up in the air that no airplane could get there, so they thought they were safe.
But the point was more to challenge. I think what he was challenging was more the idea that the military has to be, let's say, unaware of the lie, right? Because any state wants an advantage in war, right? Any state will try to get an advantage in war, right? Whether it's the British saying that the Earth is curved and that's why they won't be able to get us would sound almost self-harm if they thought that the Earth wasn't curved, right? Within government. The idea is that you want to maximize your ability to secure yourself, and securing yourself sometimes means going to war. And if you know what the shape of the planet is, right? You know the shape of the battlefield, right? Then you have, and the other side don't, you have such a great advantage, right? And so at least some people, at least in the arms of the military, which are connected to the space agency, will have to have some sort of relationship. And that relationship will have to be also a part of the government as well, because the government, the state is also what wants to survive here, right?
But it's not just that. It's also you know, scientific institutions and just individual scientists themselves have an extreme incentive to, you know, get the shape of the planet right. You know, so if I just become a scientist and I'm doing a bunch of experiments, you know, the shape of the Earth experiments. The shape of the Earth, you know, is invaluable to people who was their literal job is to try to figure out what's going on and see the universe as clearly as possible. Not only that, but like to private companies, the shape of the Earth is important. Like shipping companies would need to know, the fastest ways to get different places. Airline companies, cartographers, private space agencies. Satellite TV providers would all have satellites, all of them are lying. And also, at what point does a new CEO
stop galloping?
Sorry. I won't just gallop. You can respond to this.
No, you're just making up stuff and imagining things. We're not saying all of these people are lying. Most of them have just a very strong belief, and they try to figure out how it could work on a globe, because it's most definitely a globe to them. And so they imagine maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it's dark matter, maybe it's dark energy. That's how they're trying to explain the cosmos. Like they create ad hoc excuses, and because the ad hoc excuses sound good on paper or work mathematically, it's good enough.
Well, no, but
that's not good enough in reality when you actually measure the ground and it lacks the curve that is required to be there.
I know, but I guess what my point with the scientists is, people are coming up with a bunch of new observations and experiments all the time, so and in a wide, diverse array of fields, for instance. So as an example, for instance, the arrival rates of meteorites can be used as as proof that as a piece of evidence that the Earth is spherical. Because meteorites, if you track where meteorites land on the planet through time, you see that most of them arrive at the terminator line between night and day in the morning. Maybe you've heard the best time to view Halley's comets. Not Halley's comets. The star. What are they called? Shooting stars is in the morning. That's because if you think about it, if the Earth is moving through the solar system, it's kind of like bugs on a windshield. It's more likely that they'll hit at that point, right? Now, so someone comes up with that piece of data that supports the Earth being round. Now the thing is that could be fake. Wait, Trace, let me just finish really quickly. I know. Now that could all be fake. Like maybe.
No, it's not about it being fake. It's about interpretation of the data. The data is still there. It's about how you interpret it. If you interpret it with your preconceived ideas, which have been falsified, then all of your ideas are false.
Wait.
Okay. Yeah, suppose that works. But I guess what I'm also saying is, if someone comes up with some evidence that disagrees with our model, that shows that the Earth is flat, that means that this large conspiracy would have to jump on top of them really quickly and either brainwash them or kill them or get them to, change their results. Has anyone ever?
The evidence already exists, and you're still here defending it. So no, that's not true at all.
All that happened was they started censorship, and we got the ad apocalypse, and we got swept under the rug as a crazy conspiracy theory, and then they misrepresented us and they lied about us, and most of the public has no fucking clue.
I think
we love talking to educated people because we can actually talk to them and show them the evidence, and they're going to be like, they're generally like, oh, okay, show me the evidence, instead of just chanting from their religious view.
So Drace, would you agree then, since if there's no necessary alterations or censorship from some grand conspiracy, that means that all of the evidence that scientists come up with supports the globe Earth model?
It's not a grand conspiracy. Stop trying to misrepresent things.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying.
It's actually been admitted.
Maybe it's not grand, right? But it's a conspiracy.
It's just been admitted in front of YouTube that they censor us openly.
Wait, I know, Drace. That's what I'm saying. So there is no conspiracy. If you agree that there is no conspiracy,
I gotta make a point here. It's from the factual world.
Okay.
So, in the factual world, okay, we actually had meetings in Congress, right, about how we're going to censor the flat Earth and how we're going to control the narrative of what's allowed and not allowed when it comes to this topic, right? So it's not like these responses aren't in the world. However, it's actually good for certain societies to allow dissidents to air out a little bit, give them a chance to breathe. Like there's a sense of we really could change things. Because then if you're allowed to do that a little bit, rather than be stifled completely, you have less sense of urgency to actually really do anything. So there's always these niche groups that are allowed to fester in the corners, There's this illusion of censorship, there's this illusion of freedom, and it all works together to support the system. And if you ever watch the movie The Matrix, right, where Neo is the hero, right, and he meets the architect of the Matrix, and the architect of the Matrix tells Neo, I designed you, brother. You weren't freed to become the one by Morpheus. That was all my plan all along.
Yeah, I think that the issue here is that, one, I don't deny or doubt that that Congress, for instance, would want to do that, because there's things that are true or untrue that Congress will want to probably test, because especially if they genuinely believe that the Earth is spherical, they don't want people believing the opposite, because having an uneducated population wouldn't be a good idea. But
Well,
I'm not saying that this is true. I'm just saying this is a possible alternative idea to what you're suggesting or inferring, I suppose.
How is censoring and isolating a group of people going to educate them? How is that helping them?
So, for instance, well, I don't know about the method, because if you're saying
if you had the truth on your side, would you not just talk to them and show them the truth?
Well, there's a difference, right? Because on the one side, if you say, for instance, taking out information, let's say you take out critical theory out of university, right, or schools, whatever. The idea there would be that that government thing that actually knowing this information does more harm to people than good, right, or more harm to our ability to, I guess, progress, right, or whatever, right. Now, we do that all the time with different things. We add things into the curriculum, we take things out, and each one could be a method of suppression, because education is ultimately where we get, let's say, indoctrinated, right, to believe certain things, or to learn certain things because it's good for our society, and our society wants to succeed as much as possible, off the backs of us in a negative way or in a positive way. That I guess
if I could just quickly jump in, I think what I would see as being something that you're not maybe thinking of in the way that we do, or that I do certainly, and you might not accept this, but the way you're talking about the state and the self-preservation of the state and how the state interacts, you're talking about it from a position of the state's main concern are the other states, and protecting itself from the other states and bettering its people so that it can be a strong state amongst other strong states. You're thinking like it's state versus state, whereas I think you would understand this more if you realized that, if anything, it's more state against you, state against me, state against us. The state's main concern is controlling its people, other states. So when you're talking about, well, it's a massive advantage to know about your battlefield, yes, it is. And the people who want to control us, the society, the state, understand that very well. So what better way to have a superior knowledge over your environment by telling your people something completely incorrect about it, so that none of them even know what the chessboard is that they're on, and the state do. Now that's true power.
That's an interesting point. I would say. Sorry, go on.
I got a quote from a state actor, right, who's a very important figurehead in this entire endeavor, and this quote goes like this: "We will know our mission has succeeded when everything the American people believe is false."
Who said that?
I want to say he was a CIA guy. I just wanted to say
he was the head of the CIA.
I read your mind. I drafted it at the same time. We'll know our disinformation program is complete.
I don't want to forget
everything the American public believes is false. William Casey, CIA director from first staff meeting in 1981.
I don't want to forget what Cyclone said.
Hold on, Fred. Wait. Call that up. Move on. So this actually purports the game theory as well. And they ask this thing like, why would they lie, is a question that people ask. But the actual right question is, why would anybody in power ever tell the people that they're in power over the truth? They would always benefit themselves through deception, because as soon as you give away the truth, you've given away power. And that's part of the rules of power. You can go read the book. I mean, it's pretty obvious.
Wait. Can I just say that, like, if someone became president and they were told, and they didn't know the Earth was flat, and they were told by the people in charge, like, okay, the Earth is secretly flat, but we're gonna, say it's a sphere, and he, spilled the beans, so to say, and he told everyone, he would be kind of like a hero. Not only that, if a scientist proved the true shape of the Earth. Wait, 1 second. If a scientist proved the true shape of the Earth, he would go down in history as one of the most important scientists of all time, like up there with Newton, like, and everything. That's an extremely important piece of information.
I have one for you, brother.
Yes.
Okay, Dr. John D., PhD in optics, did a tri-band laser test over a frozen lake and confirmed no curvature. Nobody gave a shit. You know
Right.
why? He doesn't conform. He does not conform with the status quo. And by the way, people that go up against Einsteinian relativity, there's documentaries about them in their fields being shut down, blacklisted, et cetera, et cetera, et
Well,
cetera.
Yeah,
So
that's an important.
it's not
But if
true
someone,
that the scientific community is just going to accept their paradigm being upended overnight. That's just not true.
I agree. I think there's been times in history. I think there was I can't remember what it was specific. There was a time in history when I went to Oxford University and the scientific community laughed him out. Right. I think weirdly, I think that might be to do with the heliocentric model. I can't remember what it was, but that I think it has something to do with that. But I don't want to miss out what Cyclone said. I think he deserves a response. Right. The issue here, right, is that yes, we do work on assumptions, but I don't think what you're saying is mutually exclusive to what I'm saying. So, for instance, you can also have control of your people and secure yourself from other states, right? The idea that I was putting forward was more that yes, controlling people is good. Sometimes you can with the truth, sometimes you can control them. There's loads of levers of power, right? Like you know this, I know this, right? The idea is that the states are very much concerned with the security that's threatened from a foreign power, right? You know, there are
To a
states in the world.
degree, but I would maybe suggest not to the extent that they would make us believe in the news. And again, the relationships between the states, and yeah, I'm not saying that the control over the people is desirable to the exclusion of defense from outside states, but it's also not beyond the realms of possibility that these states could be closer than we're made aware of in the public. And just like our state leaders, their state leaders are just as concerned with them remaining the people in power, which means control over their populace. And if control over their populace means we have to essentially look like we're going to be going to war so that they're scared enough to just listen to basically whatever we say, for example, or you're just going to have to, go along with what we're saying. And basically the states, it's not to the exclusion of the outside other state actors, but the primary concern is that they're controlling their people, and what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So if the US have a good way of controlling their people, Russia are going to do the same. So the whole space story, the whole taking the money from what could go to schools and hospitals and the betterment of your people to go towards a space force, which is essentially just a military wing working on rocket technology, if anything, to kill more people in the world, instead of putting it towards the good and betterment of your society. They're going to do it in Russia too, and then China and India, because they all say, yeah, that's a good little deal. And it's why would they tell on each other? They've got a great thing going. They're taking millions, billions every year. They're in control. They've got exactly what they want. So why would they tell the people? I mean, this is just about the nature of power, and I would suggest that you maybe need to do a bit more research on the history and nature of power.
Okay, well, weirdly enough, right? I think to the last point, I think that's part of the problem, right? Where you have a mathematician, a physicist, and then someone like me who's an international relations guy, right? You have all three of them. And the angle here is that I want to pull you into my realm, right? Because I don't know much about physics at all, right, or mathematics. But yes, it's true that securitization exists. If you have you and I live in currently one of the most surveilled countries on the earth, right? We live in the UK, right? And yeah, states will try to control us through those methods. So they're very Foucauldian methods, right? But the problem I'm having here is that I think it would be to a state's detriment to not inform, for instance, your arms of your military that actually the plane that you're working on is not curved at all, or like your engineers or your scientists, and like they can't all be a part of they can't all be in cahoots.
Depends on how you
very
slice
unlikely,
it,
right?
fine. So, like when you say to the state's detriment, but is that to the detriment of those particular elites who might be at the very tip of this pyramid? Would it be to their detriment if they were to benefit massively from the state itself suffering? Is it possible that there would be people in power that would make that trade-off and say, well, yeah, I know this is going to make the state, our people, weaker, poorer, but me and my friends are going to be massively enriched. Yeah,
I mean, also
possibility
since there's also many states that change hand and the governments of those states change hands every so often. It's like, what are the odds that every single country, every single government entity across the entire world, and all of the governments that come and go have agreed that this is the best possible thing to do?
Well, I didn't say that would be necessarily the case, did I? You wouldn't have to, really. There's only a few key states. I mean, there's a lot of countries, yeah, but I mean, there's only a few that really matter and play a massive influential role on the world stage, so to speak.
To me, it's very interesting because we can disregard the state's involvement. What about private companies that invest in technologies that are dependent on the existence of a curvature?
Well, I would say that there's
Amazon,
no actual
Microsoft.
technologies or practical implications or usages of the world that depend on curve and motion of the Earth.
Surely you would agree that if, for example, companies want to take advantage of new technological developments and they deploy satellites, right?
Well, they don't deploy
to achieve
satellites,
that.
though. The companies that are making satellites, even, they're not the ones launching them, right? They all have to go through, like, basically, in the US at least, and I'm sure across Europe as well, it's the same. There's a certain altitude which is not private, not commercial, it's military. Like, it's military purview after a certain altitude. So if you want to put anything or propose to put anything above this height, you need to go through the government, the military. And as far as I know, they're the ones doing or claiming to be the ones that are launching these things. So, like, a company might make something and then say, hey, we've got an agreement with SpaceX or NASA, which is the government either way, to put this into space. Our satellite's going to be launched on this date and we're going to get the data directly from it. But they're not the ones launching
but
it.
it's not just like I said, it's not. Oh, you go then.
The point is that, like, it seems unreasonable for a profit organization like Amazon and Microsoft to invest billions upon billions in technology that's not real, right? Like, they're shareholders. If I was a shareholder, I would slaughter them. They're wasting
Well,
my
it
money.
depends what you mean. It depends what you mean specifically. I mean, you'd have to be specific about exactly what technology you're claiming, what use it supposedly has on the
Like
Earth.
networks that are dependent on high orbit satellites, or something like that.
Well, yeah, that's when you would have to get into proving that network is indeed dependent on what you're calling high orbit satellites, and that these things are indeed in the place where they're supposed to be. Yeah, but we're assuming when we're saying why would they buy all these or use all these technologies that that's actually what's being done.
Sure,
when we don't know that. We don't know that.
But it's also just any company that has to move things around the world, would benefit from knowing the true shape of the world clearly.
Well, they all treat the Earth as flat and motionless.
No, they don't. Like, for instance, like airlines obviously don't.
Yeah,
like,
pilots treat the Earth as flat and motionless. Yeah.
Oh, that's a simplification. When you're flying the plane, it's sometimes good to do that. But in terms of the directions they fly, like, if you're like, for instance, here's an idea. There was a flight called the Pan Am Flight 50 that literally circumnavigated the globe in the polar direction.
Well,
so
you
they
don't
went
have a
from the
globe
North Pole
yet,
to the South Pole. I know. All I'm saying is they started at one location, went past the North Pole, down past the South Pole, and went back to the same spot. So
yeah.
So you think that would be
the whole way as flat and motionless?
Yeah, possibly. But all I'm saying is,
no, that's what they do.
All right. But that's not the point I'm making, though. I'm just saying that.
But that's the point the guy made. The guy made the point. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but I can't have you pretend like I'm
making a point here.
The question.
I know.
Because the other guy made the question and the point that we have all these technologies insist on the world being a globe. And then you were bringing up the traveling, which none of that insists on the world being a globe, and you've just agreed they treat the Earth as flat and motionless. So no, that's not applicable at all.
So if I could just respond to what the Cyclone said, I'm not talking about the way that in terms of like aerodynamics they have models for planes and stuff. I'm just saying if you go past the North Pole, down past the South Pole, if it was a flat Earth, you would never be able to just teleport from one side to the other. Clearly, there's a way to go around.
Right, well, that's a total non sequitur to what was just said.
I know. Right? No, but it's not, because in terms of the like Pan Am would have had lied about that flight if they if the Earth was actually flat, because on a flat Earth you wouldn't be able to do that. And I can post the video to this if you want.
No. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
so-
that's a claim. That's a claim that if the surface that they're treating as flat and motionless was actually flat, they wouldn't have been able to fly over this flat and motionless surface that they treated as flat and motionless. That's your claim.
No, you keep going back to this whole flat and motionless.
But you
motionless
wouldn't.
thing.
Yeah,
I'm not talking
because
about that.
because that's what's in contention. The surface.
No, I'm talking about the shape of it in terms of it being round.
Yeah, you're
and you
saying
get
it's a
from one
curved
spot
shape,
back to,
but
back
you're
to the
also
spot.
saying that they don't treat it as a curved shape.
Yeah, I'm not making any claims about the way they treat things aerodynamically, which, to be honest,
Basis
planes
of
don't
the
even do
claim,
that.
though, it's like, why would the companies all depend on there being a curve and a motion, and we're pointing out that no, they don't. They treat it as flat and motion.
Right. So the reason why they do depend on it being curved is because the way in which you get from one place to another on a curved
By flying over
globe.
a flat surface. They're not flying over a globe. They're flying over a flat surface.
Okay, we're not talking about reality. I'm saying if
Yes,
it is
we
the
are.
case.
That's
No, I know. I'm just saying if it is the case
reality.
that it's round, then if a sphere, say, the direction in which you would fly to get to one place to another as quickly as possible would be different. Not only that, you wouldn't
And
be
the
able to
surface
fly
would
a
be
big
curved,
loop.
right?
Yeah, if the surface is a curved ball, you can do this
Which
loop
it's not.
from the. I know
That's the
that's
problem.
the whole
I
thing.
know you don't. I know this is
we're
the whole thing, and it's
discussing.
like annoying because it always comes back to it. But again, the argument from your side is always we're assuming that it's a ball, so it has to work this way. But as soon as
But
we
no.
say okay, but
No, wait,
we need the
yeah, no,
evidence that it's a ball.
I'm saying there's two models. It could be flat or it could be a ball, right? Now, assuming it's flat, you wouldn't be able to do this, and if it's a round, you would be able to do this. And this company is saying that they've done this, so therefore the company is saying that it's round.
That what you're saying would or wouldn't be possible based on a curve or flat isn't the case, and the best direct way to answer this question is, well, is it curved or is it not? You don't need to do some tangential.
No, we're not.
I'm going to travel the whole world and then make a claim about it, even though I didn't measure anything. Just measure it. That's the way to answer this question. Like you said,
okay.
there's two models, and the fundamental difference that we can all go out and test that have access to is the surface, the curvature. So that should be the only place your head is at if you're like, I want to know if this is a ball or not between the two models. If you're doing anything else, you're literally assuming the curve and then skipping past having to actually prove it.
No, I think you've lost it. Okay, well, I respect your take on that. I guess if my response to that would be, in terms of throwing out, or in terms of whether or not is a large conspiracy or cover up, these companies are saying that they're doing certain stuff, and they are, they do have an incentive to get the shape of the Earth right. And so I'm not making any claims about reality. I'm just saying hypothetically, I don't even have to. I'm saying if everything that we're saying is the case, if it is round or if it is flat, they would have to be lying, or they wouldn't be able to do the thing that I just posted a video about.
That was not my argument. It doesn't matter. To me, governments can lie for sure, for utility, pragmatism.
He then leaves to return a short while later.
Hide the results from everyone that you can very easily test this stuff. And also, I've got citations for each of these things.
The results are out there. It was a marketing campaign. It won an award as a marketing campaign. They sent this gnome in the same gnome in the same scale got shipped all over the world, right? Torrance Labs, Los Alamos Labs, Edmondson Station, CERN. It got sent to scientists. It didn't get sent to random fucking people.
Yes. So the reason why, you yourself can test this, and I've actually I'll link a paper about how to do this. You can actually figure out the standard gravitation, basically the strength of the downward force in your location, just by using a pendulum. So the rate at which a pendulum swings.
Responding to what India was actually saying.
Yeah, just doubling down like, fuck their test. You can do a test that'll show some different result, but you can't name any test that actually showed a different result.
No, I'm saying you yourself. In fact, this could be a fun thing for us to do. No, but as lots of people have.
So where are we at? Let's just cover where we're at. You believe that if this test is done, you'll get some result.
NASA
tests that have been done got a different result.
The other one that you presented.
But we're supposed to go out and waste our time for what?
No, well,
what if we don't get the result that you say? What are you going to say? You did the test wrong. User error. You're a bunch of idiots. You're not scientists. You don't know how to use the fucking device correctly. That's what you're going to say. So what's the point?
I mean, so to be honest, if you want,
you could do it right now without even leaving the comfort of your home. And this is the cool thing about this.
I can test weight by latitude without leaving my house.
Well,
How
in
the
some
fuck do
ways,
I do that?
in some ways. First of all, don't be so combative. I'm honestly on your side here. I think we should view this debate as, trying to work together to try to figure out the truth. But anyway, so basically, there's this thing called the World Pendulum Foundation, and they have a whole bunch of live streams to a bunch of pendulums all around the world. And so you can actually, calculate it just from looking at these live streams. Of course, they might have doctored the live stream, so that wouldn't be useful to you. But all you need is a pendulum. The higher, the better. So you can go into a stairwell, for instance, and tie it to the very top and swing it. You can actually do some calculations on the uncertainties of the formula for a pendulum to see how accurate it would be, and I've already done that. And yeah, basically, I recommend super high pendulum. The higher the better. Oh, it calculates the
What does
the
this have
weight.
to do with weight by latitude? You switch. Are you on Coriolis
Right.
now?
No. I'm always on weight by latitude. So essentially, if you want, actually, in the chat, I can send a picture of basically a map of the gravitational strength at different latitudes, but corrected for the fact that it changes by latitude. See, if you look at actually, let me just post it right now. But most gravitometer sort of maps of the world account for this, but this is just the raw data. So let me just post that for you. Now, the reason why weight would vary based on latitude, I think hopefully you guys will get this, but it's just because the same way that if you're turning around a roundabout, you get kind of flung outwards. That compensates for the gravity, and so at the equator you weigh less because there's a centrifugal force going upwards.
You keep saying that.
Yeah.
You're presenting no evidence for that.
All right. So now I'll post the paper about about how you can do this with pendulums.
So you're not actually weighing anything. Weight varies by latitude, but we're not actually weighing anything.
Yeah, post the test.
Wait.
These are all easily observational tests that we can do. Post the test. Show us the test that's been done.
Right. I can explain. So this is do you want the actual methodology of how to do this? Let me find it.
I want a video. We don't want more stories, bro. We don't.
No. These aren't stories.
This is monologuing.
Wait. Okay. So because you've never believe anything I post, this is why I'm suggesting you guys can all do this in your. All you need is a large stairwell, and you guys can do this. Here, let me post the formula for the.
So your claim
I need a large stairwell to throw you down.
So check this out.
Guys,
your
there's no need to.
Weight varies by latitude, so grab a pendulum.
Pinky.
You want to know why a pendulum speeds up?
You've made sure that the material of the string that you're going to be using is not going to be curving randomly, right? So you're going to have like a steel rope or something like that.
Yeah, that would be a good thing to do. I mean, guys, this is something that we can
You
just
can't just use
come up
spun
with.
thread, right? That would throw your results a little off.
How does a pendulum weigh things?
Basically, the period of a pendulum. Here's the formula. Yeah, I'll say. So it basically varies with respect to acceleration due to gravity. So I just posted it in the chat. So you've got t, the period, pi, pendulum length, acceleration due to gravity.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So
now,
all objects accelerate at the same rate due to gravity. So how is that weighing something?
No. So what I'm saying
get the weight
is
of an object from this.
You can get the acceleration due to gravity, which
and it's going to be the same no matter what the size of the object is, right?
Yes.
This is little g, not big G. So little g says that the acceleration due to gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared. It's not an actual measured value. It was agreed to by convention back in the early 1900s. So
yeah. So you see that
you can't derive the weight of an object from this.
Well, all you do is multiply by the mass, but really this is not even worrying about the weight of an object. Okay, so you see that map I posted at the very today. It's just a colored map of Canada.
Okay, dude, seriously, this does not support your claim. Your claim is weight varies by latitude. Nothing is being weighed, and you cannot weigh something by swinging a pendulum.
I'm saying the acceleration downward. I'm saying the acceleration downward, which is multiplied by mass. That's what weight is. I'm just saying the acceleration downward varies. Let me find. I can find the actual formula for this.
Well, So okay, now you're switching your claim. Now the acceleration downward varies. So you posted a map that shows, you said that this variation measured by a gravitometer doesn't have the latitude in it. So that doesn't.
No, I'm saying it varies by latitude.
But you said this map that you posted did not take that into account.
Oh wait, okay. I see you. Okay, all right. Yeah. So no, the map that I just posted is the raw sort of data, which is to say that's exactly the force downwards. There's also something called it's a gravitory. I don't know how to say it. Gravitomy.
A gravitometer.
Yeah. So here I'll post another map.
That's how
that
these
basically.
That's what these measurements are gravitometer measurements.
No, okay, yeah. So interestingly, this map that I posted, these maps of basically gravity changing on Earth. What these do is they actually take out the theoretical acceleration. I mean, change due to the not Coriolis, the centrifugal force. Yeah, let me find. I can find a quote.
Just want you to know that what you just posted is a model. These are models. These aren't actual.
Oh, no, I know.
The
Yeah, I know.
EGM 2.0. Then, like, how is a model evidence of?
Yeah, I know. Just the only thing to worry about with that is just the only thing to worry about with that is just to see that there is no gradient as you go down to the latitude, and as you go down in latitude, and the reason for that is because they actually subtract the like I said, the centrifugal force. But I think it would be useful for me to probably find a
Yeah, I know it's the
citation.
lumpy gravity claim. That gravity is lumpy. That's the claim. Gravity's lumpy, and then it varies by altitude. So you got problems, right? And because the effect you're measuring is so small, it's canceled out by these other effects, right? Lumpy gravity. There's some mass underneath the freaking ground that's pulling it down more. I'm a little bit higher in altitude. I'm not near the ocean. There's a lot of humidity. Like all these different factors, right? So they cancel out any effect of measurement by latitude. That's why I tried to stay on weight, because the gravitometer measurements, they're in like the freaking 8th decimal place. That's what the differences are.
I don't know what you mean by stay on weight. You can also do it by measuring the weight of something. It's just more precise to use so you guys can do it yourself. It's more precise. You don't have to buy anything. It's more precise to use the pendulum.
So I just posted on Text Check the data. This is the actual graph of the data that was accumulated by doing the measurements. I also have the spreadsheet with all the data on it. I'll post that one. There's a spreadsheet. It's got all the data, because they had the site's defunct now because this was done back in 2011. They had it embedded in a Google Maps, so you had to click on each pin and it would give you all the data from it. But I have a video that shows someone going through all of them and collecting all this data and entering into the spreadsheet. That's kind of boring shit, but you want to confirm that all these data points are correct.
Oh, so the thing to look up is called theoretical gravity. So all those models where you see the lumpiness, basically if there's dense stuff underneath the surface of the Earth, basically those are deviations from the theoretical gravity of an idealized Earth. Basically, you basically subtract out the centrifugal force, and so if you go to I'll just post the Wikipedia pages with the sufficient formulas, but essentially you can see that it's a function of latitude. And now you asked a really interesting question, like what percentage of the bumpiness, or how does the change due to latitude vary with sort of, is that greater or smaller than the change due to there being a high density and there being these little bumps and stuff? So I think that's something that I want
testing at altitude and all other factors, right? So there's other variables that found any measurement with a gravitometer.
Yeah, so here's the change due to altitude. That's also theoretically known, of course, but yeah. So anyway, do you understand the difference? Why this is essentially the same thing as weight? You can also just use if you have a really precise scale, you can just, if you don't keep calibrating it at different latitudes, you can just move that from one latitude upwards if that makes it feel better.
That's what I just posted, buddy.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Seriously, I just posted that. This is a Kern. It's called Kern Scientific. They are a precision scientific scale company.
Okay.
This was part of a promotion. They send this. There's the scale. There's the gnome. They also send like a calibration weight, right? So they calibrate the scale because the scale's getting shipped all over the place. They don't want to make sure it gets all out of whack. So they calibrate the scale with their known weight, and they weigh the gnome. Then they record the data, and they ship it somewhere else. And they did this over and over again. And as you can see from the graph, does not match the variation of weight by latitude. This graph that they have, those effects, altitude effects, pressure effects, were all taken into consideration.
Yeah. So the reason why they ship calibration weights with scales is for this very reason, that with the fact that the acceleration is different. Apparently, the acceleration near the equator is about 9.78 meters per second squared, whereas at the poles it would be 9.832. So this whole 9.81 meters per second squared, you're right, that was just decided upon as sort of like an average, I guess, of.
They actually put it in legislation in some countries.
Yeah,
that gravity is not just an opinion; it's the law. You better follow it. You think I'm joking? They actually added it into legislation in countries.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
I would like to ask a question, if you don't mind. What argument do flat earthers make? Like, what explanation do they have for the acceleration due to gravity?
What do you mean?
Like flat earthers, like they believe that the acceleration due to gravity is real, correct? Like, right?
Yeah, things fall, no doubt.
Yeah. Like, what model do they have for that? What explanation for that phenomenon do they have?
There is no scientific explanation for that. Doesn't exist from anybody. Not a scientific one. There's a story, but there's no scientific explanation. So, okay, objects fall, right?
For flat earthers?
For anybody. Yeah. So I'll just go through this. Real simple. We'll just follow the scientific method. Okay? So we want to know the cause of a falling object, the causal mechanism. So we're going to set up an experiment. What experiment can we do to deduce the cause of that phenomenon?
That's not my question, actually. But if you want to go there,
I'm trying to tell you there is no scientific explanation. So asking us that no experiment exists where you can determine what the cause of a falling object is. The claim is mass attracts mass, and this mass is getting attracted by the other mass. But I can drop a school bus or a bowling ball, and they both fall at the same rate, right? So that would be like the dependent variable is falling, right? It falls at some rate. The independent variable would be the cause of that. So to figure out the cause of a phenomenon, you manipulate an independent variable and watch the effect on the dependent variable. So we want to manipulate what we think the cause is and watch the effect on falling. Well, we can manipulate all sorts of shit we want, and shit all falls at the same rate. The only thing that we can ever manipulate to change the rate of falling is alter the density of the medium the object is falling in. That's the only variable that we can change to alter it. Now, claim is, well, that's drag, or there's freaking shit in the way, and so it has to push it out of the way, and that's why it's falling at a different rate. That's fine, but the fact of the matter is, nobody knows the cause of a falling object. Nobody. Not scientifically.
Okay. Nobody knows the cause of the universe either, yet we model it very well. So I think your statement is actually just unimportant and irrelevant, actually.
Nice
so what I want to know is what model do flat earthers have to explain and predict the acceleration due to gravity? That's what I want to know. Like as a physicist,
it's not predicted now.
So it is actually. For example, here.
No, it isn't.
So as a physicist,
it's empirical. It's determined by empirical testing.
Sure. Is that not a model? Is that not a model though? I can make. I can have some equations and model. Okay, it's measured. However, I can also predict it as well. Now here, let me explain.
How do
Assuming
you
a spherical.
how do you predict 9.8 meters per second squared?
Okay, assuming a spherical Earth, right? And I can write some equations that relate the gravitational acceleration, which is 9.81 meters per second, to the mass of the Earth and the geometry of the Earth.
Where'd you get the mass of the Earth from?
Geologists. Do flat earthers believe in geologists?
So they
I'm sure they
weighed.
do, right?
So now we're gonna conflate bullshit, right? That's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna conflate.
No,
We don't
actually,
believe in
that's it.
geologists
No, we're not.
because I don't think you know the
think
mass
that
of the
you
Earth.
should allow him to explain what he's trying to explain without immediately
No, you'd
interrupting
rather
him
just
every
straw
3
me and shit.
seconds?
Anyway, let's get to the point.
Well, he's
Where did you
asking-
get the
he's asking
how
stupid
is the
limits.
mass of the Earth deduced?
Okay, so the mass of the Earth is actually, right. I'll be practical. I'll be real. I'll be real. That you're right. The acceleration due to gravity is measured because that's most easily the way to do it. It's the best way to do it. You measure it, right? You measure it at all points on the Earth, and then you can deduce the mass of the Earth, right, from that. But I'm saying if you know the mass of the Earth, you can also deduce the acceleration due to gravity. They go hand in hand, right? And we have independent ways to measure the mass of the Earth other than gravity. We can actually deduce the mass of the Earth through seismic activity, through geology. We know the mass of the Earth, well known to many decimal places. We know the mass of the Earth, right? That's not disputed. That's not debated.
That's horseshit.
We know. No, it's not. That's not actually debated by
Okay,
any
so 3
scientist.
years ago when they said we just discovered that there's an ocean 3 times larger than the size of the surface ocean underneath the ground, when they say that they discovered that, how did they know the mass of the Earth?
They knew the mass of the Earth. That's actually irrelevant. We don't actually
No, it
care.
isn't. Because
We don't actually care
the
about
density of water, right? So you have a specific gravity.
Are
of the
you going to
density
let
of
him
water.
answer
That
any question
that would
you ask? Or are you
change
gonna...
the mass of the Earth.
nonsense. We don't care the shape of the deepest depths of the ocean. We don't care the densities of the deepest depths of the ocean.
Under the ground.
We don't care what happens underground. We know everything, like the weight, the mass of everything, the whole Earth, the entire
Yo,
Earth.
he's getting real religious now. So
You know what I'm
when you
saying?
make a point,
we know the
I'm
entire
sorry,
mass
just
of the
to
Earth.
respect, because nobody's interrupting you, right? So you make a point. When Indio rebuts you, I've heard it 3 times. You don't go, no, that's incorrect. You either ask him to prove it, providing some sort of citation, or justify your disagreement somehow. You don't just keep going, fam.
Whoever I was talking to before, do you understand what I was saying before? Like we don't actually care about the deepest, darkest shapes of the inner ocean. We can measure the entire Earth independently as a whole without knowing. We don't measure the weight.
I was addressing your
through
claim of
seismology.
seismology, right?
Yes,
Your claim
through
of
seismic activity,
seismology, that we know the mass of the Earth from seismology. Well, if we didn't know the contents of the Earth, how did we deduce the mass of the Earth from seismology?
Oh, you actually use seismology to deduce the contents of the Earth. Did you know that?
Okay, so that they were wrong. They admitted that they were wrong about the contents of the Earth. So did they change the values for mass when they found out there's more water than they thought?
No. They know the mass of the Earth's crust, and they go by layer by layer. They don't actually care about
How do they
a part
know
of
that?
the ocean. They care
I
about
want
the Earth's
to
crust
know
as a whole.
how they know that. I want you to tell us how they know
Well,
that.
you're gonna have to ask. You're gonna have to ask a seismologist. All I'm saying now, for the sake of my argument, we're not going to debate seismology.
You're not making an argument.
For the sake of my argument, I want you to consider if you trust the measurements of the acceleration due to gravity, do you also trust the measurements due to geologists of seismology? Yes or no? Do you trust their measurements?
Hell no.
Do you trust their measurement? You don't. Okay.
No,
so
because
then,
their measurements are fine. What they do with the measurements after they make the measurements and insert them into some model, right?
Okay.
And make inferences from a model. No, whether I trust that or not, there's probably alternative models that make the same predictions, and it says nothing.
So there are multiple different ways to measure it, and they all get the same number. Just similar to the acceleration due to gravity. So similar to the acceleration due to gravity.
Evidence for your claims?
Hold on. Do you actually believe that?
I don't care about. I'm not believing anything. I want the evidence for your claims.
This actually has to do with your belief now, because
no, I don't have a belief. You have the belief because you haven't presented any evidence for what you're saying.
Because I actually trust that you're going to do this research yourself. I'm not going to present to you.
Yeah, okay, but you must have already. You want me to go find your evidence? I've done this.
Whether
you're a rookie,
you or not, is going to be irrelevant. then I can't argue with you. So I want to ask you: do you
You don't
trust
have
the
an
measurements?
argument. You presented no evidence to support your argument. You're just making claims endlessly, stacking them one on top of the other, claim after claim after claim. We know the mass of the Earth, this, that, and the other thing. We know it. We know it. How do they know it? Well, I don't know. I'm not a geologist. You go find the evidence.
That's all I'm doing. I'm not actually making any claims. I'm asking you personal questions, like if you trust. Do you?
Indio, he's not even listening to what you're saying.
I know
brother.
he's not. Here's who I trust. Nowhere in the scientific method does the word trust appear. I don't care. Why should I trust anybody? Science is supposed to be testable, repeatable, verifiable. There's no trust involved. The purpose of the scientific method is so you don't have to trust anybody. What don't you understand?
I bet he's still monologuing. Let's find out.
But you
Probably.
just
He is.
You actually
He
He
is.
was. Oh my God! Just mute him, man.
Just leave him for a minute.
He ain't even paying attention.
No,
just leave
I
him
want
for
to
a
go back
minute.
to the other guy.
Leave him for a minute so he cools down.
Semi-reasonable.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can talk to me if you want.
Yeah, I mean,
so
like,
Go for
yeah, Indio, I think something that you said that I think I'd like to respond to really quickly is just what you said that the scientific method relating to cause and effect when it comes to your hypothesis and then your prediction being true. But the thing is, I think that whole cause and effect thing is really like I've also seen that stated, but I think that's more about just the logical implication of it all, like the in terms of logic, P therefore Q. It's just basically that's what it means. In order to actually figure out the actual causal mechanism, really you have to have a model and then do a little bit of abduction and try to figure out the best explanation for it, and maybe do other tests. Like just doing one test doesn't show that something causes something else. I mean, it's not like a scientific
it
method.
depends on how complex the phenomenon is, right? So you simplify it, right? So if you have you want to know some simple phenomenon, very simple, where there's only 2 or 3 possible variables what it could be. And you know how it goes. You control one variable, you make sure it doesn't change, and you change the other variable, see if that's doing it. And then you alternate. But what you're talking about is making a model for something. Dude, that's not the scientific method. Scientific method isn't about models.
Yeah, maybe so. The word model
And
has
I'll
many
tell you why
definitions.
from a logical. Let me just explain it from just a straight rational standpoint. Because you can have multiple models for the same phenomenon that make the same predictions. How do you choose which model is physically real?
Yeah, so I think so that, like I was saying, I use the word model, and that has many different, definitions. So just in order to clarify what I mean by that, I just meant like basically a hypothesis or a theory, basically just a supposed or proposed explanation being made. Now, there's also scientific models where you have things that are simplified, like a spherical Earth that's not, or maybe a force diagram and stuff. Those could be models. That's not really what I'm talking about necessarily. I just mean like say we don't know anything about the shape of the Earth, like we're just kids, we know nothing, there's no other people. We could say, all right, what could it be? Maybe it's like this, maybe it's like that. That's what I mean by models. Like maybe the shape is round and it's spinning, or maybe it's flat.
But you're talking about a hypothesis. They're not models. So the hypothesis is your prediction. Is your prediction of like whatever cause or whatever it is, and then you go out and test your prediction.
Oh wait, yeah. So that's another common mistake people make.
Theory is the explanation. It's not a mistake.
Yeah. So sorry, I should. Okay, yeah, perhaps I shouldn't have said that before, proving it to you. But I'm just trying to get across to you that I think this whole treating hypotheses as an if-then prediction is something that isn't really what a hypothesis is.
Textbooks.
You're right about that. So I'll send you a basically. Here it's a paper that basically criticizes textbooks like for children. These only really appear in textbooks.
I'm not talking about children's textbooks. I'm talking about university textbooks.
I'll post it. You should really.
Here we go from Karl Popper, as mentioned in the section, the problem of induction, something you just brought up. Popper's response to the problem of induction is simply that induction is actually never used in science. Popper.
Yeah, that's
1963, Conjectures and Refutations, The Growth of Scientific Knowledge.
Yeah, I agree.
That's true, but you literally contradicted that maybe about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I agree. So
a little bit of induction.
Yeah. Basically, what I mean by that is science doesn't prove anything. So it's to say induction is like Karl Popper is correct. That's actually kind of wrong. Really, it's more like abduction. Or Bayesian inference, where you're always just trying to get more and more evidence.
You just said like literally, you double spoke, and I'm confused. So you're
Um,
saying yes, you say you agree, but you're disagreeing, but you're agreeing.
well,
I'm
it's okay. I
confused.
think there's a difference between strong and weak induction. Possibly that you could find the answer there, but don't worry about what I mean. I can explain to you exactly what I mean. It
These
basically just
people are
means
incredible.
you get a bunch of evidence, and it just keeps on supporting a hypothesis more and more and more. It never proves it, so you could say it's not induction, but
Well,
yeah.
I mean, when you're validating a hypothesis, the result is qualitative. So if you prove something, that's pretty much it. So it's not like it changes or there's a difference or no, once you figure out the cause of an effect, it's always going to be that. It doesn't change.
Wait, I'm sorry. I was trying to find more evidence for the thing I said earlier about the hypotheses not being predictions. That's a common mistake people make, though. I'll try to find some stuff.
Why would you say that? A hypothesis is a scientific prediction. Well, it's a prediction as to what's causing the natural phenomena you're supposedly studying. So why? So this is what grinds my gears about people and saying that the scientific method as it's laid out is actually wrong. So you have a perfectly reasonable epistemology. You have an if A then B statement. You either have if A then B or if A not B. And you're saying that's incorrect. How could that possibly be correct? It's either what you suppose or it's not what you suppose. So explain.
Yeah. So that whole if then or a prediction of if I do this if see this observation I should expect to see this, or if I do this experiment I should expect to see that. That's a valid part of the scientific method. I'm just saying that is different from a prediction. I'm sorry, not a prediction, a hypothesis. That is once you have a hypothesis, which is the proposed explanation, then you come up with the predictions. I'm posting some stuff in the
You have a link we can click on or something?
Can you I hate the word explanation.
Yeah.
What does explanation mean?
And before that,
I want
well,
to know
you
what
know
it
what?
means in a
Go ahead.
scientific context, what the word explanation means. Because the
Okay.
theory was supposed to be the explanation.
No, well, when it's a when a hypo theory, it's basically a theory without that much evidence for it. But yeah,
And we call that a hypothesis.
yes.
Can you attach
Yes, but that's different. But you can obviously see that is different from an if then prediction. Like if I increase the amount of weight on this spring, it should do this. That's different from the proposed. That's different from the explanation, or the model, so to speak. The what you think is going on. It's basically.
All hypotheses are like created equal. Do you think that there's some hypotheses, like even using your definition, that are just shitty hypotheses because they're poorly worded, poorly formulated, too complex, too convoluted, many moving parts? Like there's just some shitty hypothesis, right?
Yeah, there's bad hypotheses. Of course, you could
Well,
come
I
up
mean,
with.
think if you made it this complex, a very complex hypothesis, that to falsify it, you would need to do thousands of experiments because the hypothesis is so complex.
Can I just push back
So
real quick?
Sorry,
you should be making hypotheses that are very, I don't know how to put it, efficient, right? They should be very short, terse statements that can be tested. Ideally, it should be an if-then statement. I'm not saying you can't make a hypothesis that is not an if-then statement, but ideally it should be.
So okay, so I'll post the link. I've posted
I'm
many
gonna
links
push
on this,
back.
but
I'm
this is
gonna
the
push
best.
back.
I read what you posted. This is
That's the only link
philosophical
you posted.
nonsense, dude.
I just
All
want
right.
to
Well,
push
it
back
doesn't
on
matter.
your
I mean,
statement. I just want to
yeah.
push
This is
back
just
on your
person's
statement that
opinion.
it's
Yeah,
not a
go ahead.
prediction. So you said it's not a prediction. So from colostate.edu, scientific hypothesis, a special kind of prediction that forecasts how the independent variable will affect the dependent variable. So from geosociety.org, Nature Science PDF, the hypothesis should also contain a prediction about its verifiability. For example, if the hypothesis is true, then 1, A should happen when 2, B is manipulated. The first blank is the dependent variable, A. It depends on what you're doing in the second blank. In the second blank, B is the independent variable. You manipulate it to get a reaction. There should be no other variables in the experiment that may affect the dependent variable. McLeland, Christine, The Nature of Science and the Scientific Method, the Geological Society of America. So, I mean,
Yeah, I'm definitely not doubting that
you just did. You
some people
just
get
did.
this wrong.
You just did.
No,
You
no,
just said that
yeah,
it's not. You just said that it's not what I cited it is. So can you give it? I mean,
yeah, exactly. So,
This
so
is
let me
what
just respond.
Feynman said, right?
Let me respond. So in the link I posted, basically I fully admit that a lot of textbooks get this wrong. In fact, the table I just posted shows actually no, that's from a science engineering fair. But oh, actually, here we go. Table 3. This shows different textbooks and whether or not they get it right or wrong and everything. Not only that, I can post lots of stuff, but basically it actually doesn't really matter. There is no actual, I mean, there's no correct scientific method. That's also another myth. Like there's a sequence of steps and everything. I'm just saying a lot of the times in textbooks for children, they get this wrong. And yeah, that actually happened to me. Like for my life in high school, I was always taught to do an if-then hypothesis. I think it's sort of useful to teach kids that. I can actually post something about why that's bad to do.
Well, listen.
There is no correct scientific method, so therefore there is no sufficient method of inquiry to ascertain knowledge. You just destroyed knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, I think
I was
it's
just gonna bring that up
obviously
here.
useful to
No, like this is the problem. You want people when they use the word science, right? They want a certain air of certainty to be like for their claim to be surrounded by some air of certainty. Well, science proved this, or science proved that, or science demonstrated this, right? So, yes, you can say the scientific method doesn't have this if-then consequence, right? But then you don't have the certainty afforded to the scientific method by the general public. But you're claiming you do by using rhetoric, but you don't, right? So people often say X causes Y when it's actually a correlation relationship and not a causal relationship, right? People do this all the time. And it's the first thing they teach you in university. Correlation isn't causation, but even freaking highly advanced degreed professionals do this, especially when they're trying to get more money. So this is the problem. The problem is, as far as the human endeavor goes, the certainty of which we talk about, science proves this, and then you say there is no scientific method, as Gregory just pointed out, you're just saying you just threw out all knowledge. You just threw it under the bus.
So I'm not saying there's
Problem
no
isn't certainty. The problem isn't
there's no such
certainty.
thing as
This needs to be distinguished. This needs to be distinguished. The problem isn't certainty. The problem is sound justification and a valid epistemology and method of inquiry. You can have certainty with or without any discursive logic sequence or delineated and sophisticated method of inquiry. The problem is that you just deny that there is any valid method of inquiry to ascertain knowledge. You just destroyed knowledge.
Yeah, so yeah, when it comes to a valid epistemology for how to do science, basically, yeah, if you want to do it without an explanatory model and just have an if-then, yeah, I suppose if that works for you, you can do that. Like I said, there's no correct way to try to figure out empirical,
I don't
knowledge
get you.
about our
What
world.
the fuck is an explanatory model? That doesn't even make sense. That's like an
That
oxymoron.
hypotheses. So
No, an explanatory model. Models are
using
descriptions
buzzwords.
of things. They don't make explanations. They describe shit mathematically, typically. So they just
no,
describe.
so I'll stop using the word model because that's not what I meant. So I'll make an effort not to say model,
Using
but in terms of
buzzwords, that's
like a hypothesis should have some explanatory power. It should say why. So this is from the University of
Cause, right?
Berkeley.
Well, by definition, it does. Now we just have to verify it or falsify it. It's a truism.
I'm gonna have to post it in 2 parts, but this is from the University of
Be
Berkeley.
sure to add
Again,
links when you post those text chat. That just
oh
the
yeah,
text,
yeah.
add the link
All
too,
right,
so we
so
can
no
go
one
and
post anything.
investigate.
Okay. I'll post the link first. This is a different one. This is a good website. But anyway,
And concerning the word explanation, there should be no difficulty about this among intellectuals and interlocutors in this voice chat. It's not that difficult. An explanation is simply giving further detail about the subject. That's all it is.
Oh dear.
Sometimes, but in the way I hear Glover, well, a lot of people use the word the explanation as in scientific explanation is further detail, but a lot of grandiose verbiage is inserted into that further detail.
Anyway, it's not that big of a deal. Like I said, I think it's the main point is that the whole point of science is you have an explanation or like a proposed way the world is, to make it in real simple terms, not using any buzzwords. A proposed way the world is. Then you say, all right, if that was true, we would expect to see this, that, this, and that, maybe this other thing, right? So let's do some experiments, look at some observations, and if all those things are true, then it supports that model. If they're not, then okay, it's probably almost certainly not that model. But in the future, you might get something that doesn't support that model, and okay, maybe it's time to change the model slightly or throw something out. And then all through that process, you're basically trying to figure out the way the world works to come up with a causal mechanism.
Right.
Yeah.
So what we already said earlier, because you're talking as though you're giving some nuance that was missing before, but you just repeated the truism that we just said earlier. Yes, we have an explanation, especially it concerns the physical nature of this or that particular or the causal event that we observed, and we're trying to verify or falsify the hypothesis. That's what we already said earlier.
Yeah, so the nuance here is just because the other guy said that, I think his name's Indigo or something, was saying that a hypothesis is the prediction, but that's that you get the predictions from the hypothesis and then you see if they're right or not. That's the
Well,
only
you
thing
can
I
make
was
a further
clarifying.
prediction after you make the prediction that is the hypothesis. When you say the sentence, I mean, if we're going to be so keen about examining our words, and let's, be thorough and consistent. So when you say if X, then Y, whatever placeholder symbol you want to use, that's a prediction. This will happen if this antecedent elapses in history. And then you can make further predictions about what will or will not happen after that.
A
There's no
valid
problem.
hypothesis, right? It has to be a valid hypothesis. You can't just make up any hypothesis about any idea that you have in your mind and call it a hypothesis. It has to be consistent with the observation and how you logically make a hypothesis based on that, right? It has to be valid.
So that would be an instance. Well, let's be accurate. That would be an instance of a valid, like you just said, a valid hypothesis, which was then empirically verified. You can make all sorts of hypotheses which are valid or invalid, coherent or incoherent, empirically verified or not.
Yeah. Anyway, so I brought up this like trying to say Indigo was wrong. And everything with
Anyways,
this hypothesis, but I wasn't trying to call you out for being wrong too much. It's just something I came across. But we can move on with what we're talking about if you want.
That's crazy. The person that I asked to be unbanned, like straight up kept saying, "I'm sorry, but you're mistaken." Exactly as this guy did. So they must come from the same school of thought. Did you not see the conversation that just happened? How you got your ass handed to you for the last 30 minutes?
Wait, are you talking to me?
I mean, yeah, because every time somebody rebutted you with some sort of citation or some sort of anything, you said, "Yeah, that's true," and then you double spoke. So I don't know how you
No,
showed
I
the
don't
video.
know. Well, anyway, we can take from the conversation what you will. But you guys want to talk about
it's not much
the
of a rebuttal.
experiments, which oh no, I mean, I don't think I was. I mean, you can think what you want. I'm not.
No,
I
it's
don't have
not what I
enough.
think.
My
I just
ego's
hear
not so
you
big. I don't gotta worry about it.
changing away from a rebuttal. That's not good
So,
faith, I
no,
would say.
instead of looking
Well,
at like these
there is
arguments
no
as
rebuttal
trying to make your opponents look bad and you look good. Really, I think we should
That's
be
not
sort of
really
viewing this thing as like
all.
us working together to try to figure out what's true and correct each other in a intellectually honest way. So if someone doesn't know something, for instance, instead of going, aha, you don't know, got you, I just move on with the conversation. You can help him figure it out, or like, oh, here's some links for you to
well,
research.
let's keep in
Well, I agree with that
let's
ethic.
keep in
I agree
mind.
with that ethic.
Yeah.
I do too. Let's keep in mind though that every chance you got, you tried to respond with the double speak and also implying that the person who gave you the information, though you agreed in some way, also they were wrong. just like you did with Indio. So
Yeah, when you give counterpoints, that by definition, in the nature of the case, makes it into a debate, not just a discussion.
What is your profession?
See, old friend, I brought more soldiers than you did.